Welcome back to the Get Chatty podcast. Now we have a familiar face again. Christina, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you. And thanks for having me back for a second round.
Oh no, I mean this is a fun one because these are not planned like before. So we need to we're just gonna go for a quick chat just to catch up on how you've been going with what you do. So maybe what we can start with is what's your experience running the business so far?
So far, it's been a roller coaster ride, to be honest.
Okay.
There's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of work to do, and there's so many things that I could do, and there's never enough time in the day. But I realize that I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm excited about it. I would not want to be working for an organization right now. I'm very happy working for myself. My boss is tough sometimes, but you know what? I love what I'm doing. And I think that's the most important, because I don't think a lot of people can say that in a job. I love what I'm doing. I'm excited about it. If I had 24 hours of work to do in a day, I would work for 24 hours. And there are days that I just can't stop. I want to do one more thing. I want to add one more note. I want to, just follow up on one more item. The business has been great from that aspect, from the sense of, a business making money and having lots of projects and lots of income. It's still slow going. And I think everybody said to me at the start, it will take 3 or 4 years before your business really starts to take off. And I'm only in year 2.
Yes.
But, little by little, I get a little bit more promotion, more marketing. This is a business that works very much through referrals. So having somebody refer a student or a family to me for advising, that's really where I'm going to start to build my client base. I also do projects on the side where I provide information for school-based counselors to better understand the markets, especially in Australia and now in New Zealand. And so that will continue to be one side of the business for me. But the side I'm most excited about really is working one-on-one with students and doing that university advising, because I think that's the most valuable part. I think that's really what students need, is to have somebody work alongside them and sort of guide them in the right direction.
We should talk about New Zealand.
Yes. Yes. I am very excited to talk about New Zealand.
Oh.
I've just come back from a 2-week trip visiting all of the universities and connecting with people, visiting every university city there. And I had a wonderful tour. I loved it, every bit of it. And I want to recommend it to students. So I came back just full of information, full of excitement, full of renewed energy almost, to promote the New Zealand universities to international students. So the one thing that I really found exciting was New Zealand is so very welcoming to visitors, to travelers, welcoming to people into their community, but also just, wanting to really help people out. I could ask somebody on the street for help. I could ask questions for something I didn't understand. I really felt like it was a warm, friendly, welcoming environment. And I think that's important for international students.
Oh, absolutely. I think sometimes that when we think about we think about the space that we are in, but then we need to, when we are in the space of working with other people, try to help people to build their path, it's context matter.
Yeah.
Context. And speaking of context, I wonder, like in your area of speciality, how is New Zealand different from Australia?
Oh, there are a lot of similarities and differences. And I'm actually preparing to do a conference presentation about that right now. We're trying not to call it similarities and differences as much as just what's New Zealand like? And I would say in terms of the country overall, it is a country of only 5 million people. So you have to keep that in mind. That's smaller than some of the major cities around the world. But it doesn't feel like a small town. It feels like a comfortable, sort of community. It feels like your neighborhood, really. So it's a small population, and it's spread out through cities all over the North and South Island. And I found that the university communities really were very open, very friendly. None of them felt like they were out in the middle of nowhere. They didn't feel like they were, just a little village plopped in the middle of a farmland or anything. It felt like these nice towns or cities with a university community embedded in them. And I found everywhere I went that the university really was part of the community. So students might be living on the campus. They might be living in flats nearby. And there was another really important point that I found, that whereas Australia has had some issues with housing for students.
Oh yeah.
And we've had issues with housing for everyone, but the international students especially have struggled. And in New Zealand, they provide a lot of student accommodation on campus.
Oh.
So in many cases, they can house all first-year students on campus if those students need housing. So there's a lot more focus on making sure there's accommodation for students. They have safe places to live. In some cases, all first years do live on campus, and then they go out flatting, as it's called. So they go and rent a flat off campus for their second and third years, which I found really interesting, because here in Australia, we find usually the domestic students will live at home, commute to the university, and stay at home for as long as they can. Why wouldn't you? It's free rent.
Look, I mean, in this day and age and economy, they might be staying at home until their 50s.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it's just looking at how the economy is going around the world and things like that. And last time when we talk about choose your own adventure, and New Zealand can actually diversify that opportunity, because I think that's one of your strengths. You are actually working with a lot of university in both Australia and New Zealand.
Right.
So when they have different experience, like for example, that if some of them want to learn to be more independent, then going into a New Zealand university, starting their degree, living with other students with similar experience, developing the community. So if that means something to them, if that's important to them, then you'll be like, that one.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that's what I thought was really important to understand, was to visit each university, to see the campus, and to really get a good feel for campus life. And to be able to relate that to a specific student, and to be able to say, all right, you need a place where you have a closer knit community, you have more pastoral care, this university would be better. Or a place where you can be much more independent, it feels more like a big city environment, then a different university would be appropriate for that. So it was really important for me to go around and get that firsthand knowledge of each and every university in New Zealand.
Oh, you're one of actually possibly the only guest of this podcast so far that work across different countries. Yeah. So we have Australia, New Zealand, and of course US.
Yes.
There's a lot of changes, economical, societal, and everything. Do you feel like it's impacting the way you work, or the way that you communicate with people, or like how is the experience like? Because when you're on your own, when you're independent, you have to deal with a lot yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're right. There have been a lot of changes lately. One of those is political. The other is economic. So a lot of political factors, especially in the US, have impacted economic factors worldwide. And I think everybody understands that and is feeling that these days. So what I'm seeing right now, because I work with the United States as well as Australia and New Zealand, and I focus heavily on international students coming to Australia and New Zealand, we're seeing a lot more students who do not necessarily feel comfortable going to the United States, or they're looking at other options in addition to the US. So there are more students looking at Australia and New Zealand as options for their university studies. The other side of the coin is that they're looking at costs. And the Australian and New Zealand universities are a little bit lower cost in terms of tuition, but the living expenses here are a little bit higher. So it does sort of balance out a bit. And then I guess the other side of it is, students are looking, as you said, to choose your own adventure, to find something new and different. Not everybody wants to go to the same big countries. They call them the Big Four. So you have the US, UK, Canada, and Australia have always been the big countries receiving all of the international students. But these days, international students are branching out a little bit more. One of the big selling points for Australia and New Zealand is really that welcoming environment, especially in terms of diversity. If students are not sort of your traditional straight and narrow student, if they're looking for something a little different, these could be neurodiverse students, they could be LGBT students, they could be just students of color, they could be from a variety of backgrounds. And Australia and New Zealand do such a good job of integrating those students, making them feel included in the community, and there's no politics that's implicating their behavior.
I really appreciate that you bring it up, because you're always an ally to that. So I guess my little question to you is like, what does being an ally, like, I mean, we know each other for a few years now, so disclaimer. So it's like, you're always an ally and you do pay attention to like who people's stories are. What does being an ally means to you?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think it really means being open and understanding, being there to support as needed, and just being a friend no matter what. Yeah. I mean, we don't need to question people about their beliefs, their lives, their choices. It doesn't matter. In the end, we're all human. And I think that's one of the most important things, that, if we can all just realize that everybody here is human. I used to say, when I first started out teaching and doing presentations, and you look out into this room of all these people, and somebody said to me years ago, look, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. Everybody has to do the same things. Everybody has to learn to tie their shoes. And if you think about it in some of the most simplistic ways, like the president of a company or the 4-year-old in the classroom, they have to learn how to put their pants on one leg at a time. And, it gets down to the absolute basics.
Well, I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, how about you tell me a little bit about being an ally and how diversity is important to you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for asking me that. When I was in school age, that I was in dare I say, right-wing neighborhood. Not recommended. And I think it made me a little bit tougher, made me a little bit more mindful about how difference being treated. But what I can see is the last 20, 30 years, there are actually a lot of progress being made. But of course that we cannot be complacent. We shouldn't be complacent. We shouldn't say, for example, 10 years ago, marriage equality, it's in, but right in the past 10 years only, that even the political economic landscape had changed so much. Yeah. That's why, for me, one of the reasons about starting this podcast, it's about bringing the voices of LGBT plus friends and allies together through stories, because everyone's stories is different. So even if someone's description is the same as the other person, their lived experience would give them something else. So I think I think that's the importance in that. I interviewed a financial advisor and a mortgage broker, and kind of similar to yourself in a way, because they don't work with one single organization. So when you are client focused like yourself, then you can actually provide a much wider scope of opportunities that you can customize to it. And particularly because, like, we're in day and age of AI, that people are just asking a generalist question, but it becomes your point of difference that you are so customized. And just as knowing you for a few years, that you are really good to talk to. You're great to talk to and just chat with and have a good conversation with. So I'm sure that the students that you work with, the client, the family that you're working with, would be able to understand it. Like, oh, if I talk to Christina, it's got to be good.
I hope so. I hope that's the message coming across, that, I do like talking to students. I used to be a teacher, so I understand a little bit of the student mindset. And I really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm really invested in it as a passion project.
And the other thing is, I think you should definitely consider as a success, is because you have been building your visibility at conferences and expos. Because I work in conference and expos marketing before. That's not easy, and you have like speaking opportunities or presenting. Can you tell us a little bit about like what are the ones that are you going to any of them in 2026? Have you planned?
I have quite a few. So there is an association that I belong to called the International Association of College Admission Counselors. These are international school counselors all over the world. So if you think of the International School of, name that city, the school-based counselors who work there, who advise the students, are the ones who typically come to these conferences. And alongside them, you have all of the university representatives, many from the US, now more and more from Canada, from Europe, some from Asia, and rarely we get one or two from Oceania. So this year I'm attending 3 different conferences. For 2 conferences for the same association, and 1 conference for an association of independent counselors like me. And I'll be doing a number of presentations specifically about Australia and New Zealand as study destinations. One session about sort of what type of student profile would fit in well in Oceania or other parts of East and Southeast Asia. And then there's going to be one session about how welcoming we are as countries. And Australia is very welcoming in comparison to some of the others, but it highlights the big 4 and talks a lot about the policies impacting international students these days. So it could be visas, it could be diversity, equity, and inclusion. It could be just how we treat students in general, how we treat international visitors. So the whole range of topics there. And Australia may or may not do so well this year because we've had a few changes to the student visa policies. So it's going to be, it'll be a mixed bag this time. But I'll be doing a number of presentations to these audiences throughout the next couple of months.
Right. I mean, it sounds like that only the second year in, you already start to establish a reputation for yourself. And like many small businesses, new businesses, it's important to bring that all together and then build upon that. It might take 3 to 5 years for that, for things to start running on its own or something like that. But I mean, congratulations for all of that.
Thank you.
This is very exciting. Now, before we wrap up this episode, you mentioned that you started expanding into New Zealand. So I presume that your website will have that. So where can they find you?
It is chandlereducationalconsulting.com. So I have added New Zealand onto the website. I have announced it on Facebook and LinkedIn. And it is up there. There are some resources about New Zealand as well. And yeah, I'm excited to really start promoting it as a study destination now.
And for our audience there, like, you know, if you know someone that might be interested in, just forward them Christina's web address, because you have a contact form that they can just type in their inquiries and you see them. I hope they work.
They do, yes.
You know, something like that. Like, you know, and yeah, well, I mean, it's a huge journey. Congratulations for taking the step, and also thank you for being a good ally. And all of the information on the show notes about Christina's website, LinkedIn, and Facebook link. They can reach out to you on any of those platforms.
Yes.
Or, you know, fabulous. And well, I wish you the best, and hopefully I'll get to catch up with you in the following series.
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here.
And cut. Oh, that was quite good, actually. When building a business from scratch, there's realities to face. Slow growth, the effort that required for visibility, and the long-term commitment needed to build something. Christina is in a good position to tackle that because, first and foremost, she loves what she does, which is about helping people address their needs. On the other hand, since it's not a brick-and-mortar business but a flexible, independent model, she can invest time and energy to build that genuine connection that better address people's needs, which is a selling point in its own right. I really appreciate that Christina is so open about the journey in creating her own path, even if it's uncertain. For LGBT plus entrepreneurs and anyone thinking about starting something for themselves, there's a practical mindset that you should consider taking on, which is you don't need everything figured out. You just need to start. Because the world itself changes and morphs over time. It's something that could be a great thing, but might not be so great in 5 years. Have you ever read those overnight success stories? Well, if you read between the lines, most of them actually have years of preparation before that big moment, really. Another good proof of why a slightly imperfect, flexible operational model is good for people in the personalized service space is that it allows you to pivot. In her case, data from operating in the US and Australian target market show that New Zealand is a good place to grow into. And based on the experience so far, she knows what she would be looking for and topics that she would focus on during her New Zealand trip. If I have to name a specific takeaway from my chat with Christina, is that relationships can be one of the strongest assets, and inclusivity is a competitive edge. When you put all the information together, jump into it with a smart business model, it could really help you develop yourself from year 1 to year 2, year 3, and so on. Get Chatty Podcast is produced by me, Arthur, the Chatty Curator. Thanks for your company. I hope you enjoyed this episode, learn something new, or pick up something helpful to realize your aspirations. The podcast guests are appearing in kind, so please consider supporting the podcast by supporting them. Small moments like liking and sharing on social media or send your friend the episode can really help. You can find all the information on the show notes or visit chattycurator.com if you prefer to listen without Spotify or YouTube Music accounts. Until the next episode, thanks for listening and have a great day.